All right, guys, this week we are going to focus on story problems using fractions. Okay, so remember that anytime that we are practicing story problems or word problems, we have to pay attention to the words too, not just the numbers, but the words as well. And so it says, while Noelle's cupcakes are in the oven, she starts making the frosting. There is a full 1 quart jug of milk in the fridge. She only needs 1/4 of a quart of milk to make the frosting. How many quarts of milk will she have left after making the frosting? And so the key words that I see that are going to tell me what operation I'm going to be doing with these fractions is how many quarts of milk will she have left? Okay, we know that when we're trying to find something that's left over, we are going to be doing subtraction. So if this is going to be a subtraction problem, that means I need to set up my problem. So I could do it one of two ways. I could do 1, because we're starting with 1 whole, minus 1/4 equals, or we could do it like this, 1 minus 1/4. Remember, the 1/4 has to be put in the fraction part of the problem if we go vertically. It's just like place value. So most of you could do this in your brain. I would say that the easiest way would be this way, right here. Put a little star here. But the best thing that you can do is you need to change the whole number to be a fraction. And we have talked about over and over again how a fraction that equals 1 is a numerator and a denominator that are exactly the same. So we could do 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 1,000, or 1,000 over 1,000. All of those equal 1. But in this case, because we are dealing with fourths, our fraction has to be 4 over 4. Okay? And then that makes it easier for you to subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then remember, the rule for adding and subtracting fractions is that the denominator stays the same. So the answer would be that Noelle has 3/4 of the frosting or the milk left over. So that would be your answer. Okay? The next one, let's see what operation this one is. It says Mrs. Jackson is at the grocery buying ground turkey to make burgers. She plans to make 8 burgers. Okay, so we need to know about this 8 right here. 8 burgers, and wants each burger to be 1/4 of a pound. How many pounds of ground turkey does Mrs. Jackson need to buy? Okay, now if we're trying to figure out what operation, there's nothing being said about like how should she divide the burgers, or how much meat will she have left over. And so that means that the operation has to be either add or multiply. Okay? And there's one of these that's going to be easier. But if we're trying to find out if she has to make 8 burgers and each of them has to be 1/4, my writing, never thought it would ever be able to get worse, but it has, then we can always add up all of those 1/4s, okay? So 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 1. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 equals 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. You could do it that way. So that means that Mrs. Jackson would need 2 pounds of ground turkey. This is a very realistic problem. This could happen in everyday life, especially now that barbecues are probably happening more often with the nice weather. Like, this is a very realistic story problem. But the other way that you could do this problem, and the way I want to review this with you, is you can actually do multiplication, because the problem is saying that she has 8 groups of 1/4. And this is something that we barely touched on, but that's why we need to review it. So the way that we multiply a whole number with a fraction is we have to change that whole number into a fraction as well. And all whole numbers, Okay, this is a different rule. All whole numbers can be turned to a fraction if we keep the numerator, whatever that whole number is, and the denominator has to be a 1. That means that there are 8 wholes, okay? 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 whole burgers, okay? And then if we are going to multiply 1/4 by 8, we're still, oops, sorry, let me erase that. We're still going to be multiplying by 1/4. We don't do anything to change that. And then we follow the rule of multiplication. Multiplying fractions is a different rule, okay? The rule is that you just multiply across. So 8 times 1 is 8, and then 1 times 4 is 4. So that means we've got an improper fraction. Well, remember, improper fractions, all fractions use division. So what is 8 divided by 4? 8 divided by 4 equals 2. And yes, you should, on IXL, if you put 8/4, I think it'll be counted wrong. So you have to change that fraction to its simplest form or to its whole number form. And you may have to do that with mixed numbers as well. Okay, so there's that one. And then let's read this one. Let's see what this one says. And then we'll do some review over computation of fractions. So at the corner candy shop, Franklin buys 1/8 of a pound of gummy bears. He also buys 4/8 of a pound of chocolate coins. How many pounds of candy does Franklin buy in all? Okay, I think most of you know that right there gives us a hint on what this problem is asking us to do. They want us to add. So this one's pretty simple. 1/8 plus 4/8 equals 5/8. Okay, and we can't divide these to make them smaller. We can't change them in any way. This is the simplest form, so that is your answer. Now, I just want to do some review of fractions. We already reviewed adding, subtracting, and multiplying fractions. So if you don't remember, go back to the beginning of this video and listen in again. But I do want to talk about some other things. So, for example, if you get the answer, let's say you get the answer 6/9. That is not the simplest form of that fraction. So you have got to divide the fraction by another fraction that equals 1. Okay? That means it has to have the same numerator and the same denominator. And it also has to be a number that the original fraction can be divided by. So you have to think about, what can a 6 and a 9 both be divided by equally? Is it 2/2? Well, 6 divided by 2 could happen, but we can't divide 9 by 2. It doesn't work. So that can't be the answer. Let's try 3/3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. That is its simplest form. That means that 2/3 and 6/9, they are equivalent. They're the same, but this is the simplest form. So if you are getting some of your IXL questions wrong, it could be because you're not typing in the simplest form. So please don't forget to do that. Also, I wanted to review, how do you make a mixed number into an improper fraction? And that is our trick, is that the denominator stays the same. And then we do 3 times 3 is 9 plus whatever's on the top. So then that would be 10/3. And then if you want to change, that's not what I wanted. If you want to make an improper fraction into a, let's do the same one. If you want to make this 10/3 back into a mixed number, you can do it many different ways. Some of you like to do this mentally, but all you do is divide. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3, sorry guys. 3 times 3 is 9. You subtract. And then whatever the remainder is, that's going to be your numerator. And then whatever you're dividing by every single time, that's going to be your denominator. So that's just a little bit of a review for you. In the next video or next week, I will be reviewing how to add and subtract mixed numbers. We went through that quickly, and then we'll be touching up on some decimals and then jumping into 5th grade curriculum in May. So yeah, we've still got a lot to do throughout this remote learning. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.